Hi, everybody. Welcome. Ivor Chester here, your balance coach, and we're all working on balance these days, aren't we? Today, we're going to talk about what you know. Okay. A lot of people find themselves quite hindered because their lack of belief in what they know. All right. Let me tell you a story. I just told this to some friends last night before we went to a concert. He was asking me about this peculiar record store I used to work in. Back in 1981 to 1985, I worked in the coolest record store in North Texas, if not the world. And it was called Collector's Records. A girl I was dating at the time told me that there was this position available uh, at the that they were hiring at this record store. And it was a mom and pop record store. It used to be called the Dallas Sand. That was the name of it. But then the mom and pop bought it out. And it was the kind of old record store before I started working there. They used to have listening booths in the 50s and 60s. And then this mom and pop, they were called the Farragos. It was Dorothy and Richard Farrago, and they bought the records and the bins, and they moved it to a very small space, probably smaller than most of your living rooms, about the size of my living room. Anyway, and it had tons of LPs just stacked on top of each other. There were the racks, and then there was space underneath the racks. Then there was 45s, which ran for uh, dozens of feet. And then there were wall shelves that were full of 78s. And then there was other peculiar rigged up racks and shelving that they used to just stuff it. So it was literally just bursting with vinyl and 78s and 8 tracks. And I understand this was 1981 before the introduction of CDs to the common market. So as I went in there at the behest of this girlfriend, I walk in and there was this shorter, wider kind of lady with a very wary eye smoking a cigarette. I understand this the early 80s, and it was her shop, so she was allowed to. And she always used to admit when people would walk in, she'd walk up with her ashtray and her cigarette, and she'd go, "Here, want to smoke? It's a nasty habit, but I really enjoy it." Anyway, so she cast a weary eye at this boy that was walking in the store, and I was about 23. And as I came in full of hope and promise and youth and a touch of arrogance, she looked me up and down and she goes, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I hear you're hiring." And that put her cynical motor into full spin. She looks at me and she leans back against one of the record racks and she goes, "Who's saying, 'Hey, hey, good looking'?" And I said, "Well, that was Hank Williams." And she looked at me, kind of raised an eyebrow a little bit. And I said, "Hank Williams, Senior." She nodded and she goes, "What's the real name of the theme to the Phantom of the Opera?" And I said, "Do you mean Bach's Toccata in D?" And she goes, and I said, "D major." And she goes, "Okay." And she looked me up and down one more time and took a drag on her cigarette. And then with that same hand, she pointed over to the 45 racks and she goes, "I need you to pull all the cards that don't have records in front of them and bring them to me. We're going to close at 5, but we're going to stay late. What's your name?" Oh, no. She turns around and walks away. And then she turns, she goes, "Oh, and what's your name?" And I said, "Well, my name is John." And she goes, "Fine, John. I'll find the rest out later. Get to work." And I said, "Can I please call someone to tell them to come and pick me up thing? Because I had to have a ride to get there." And she goes, "That's the phone, leave a quarter." And I thought she was serious, so I left a quarter because her attitude told me, yeah, that's the truth. So I got the job. I didn't have any kind of degree. I had never worked in a record store at that time. I did have a good knowledge of music as far as who sang it and what I liked and their history because I always read the liner notes and I read lots of books on the groups that I liked and some of them that I didn't like or I didn't understand. My point is this: what do you know? How did you get it? See, that's called life experience. We're coming to a day and age where finally people are understanding that life experience is worth a great deal. It's not really just about this sheepskin concept. It really is about validating what you have been through. Now, what have you been through? Depression, alcoholism, addictions. You've been through a tough life. You've been through some wrong relationships. You turn those and reframe them in such a way that we become life experiences. And then when the cynical people kind of walk up to you and drag on that cigarette and look you up and down, you can sit here and answer the questions. Why? You have the answers. You don't need validation from other people. You've got what you've been through. God put you through, or you put yourself through, some really tough things. Why? Because the tough things are what make you tough. Okay, the tough things, the tests, as it's mentioned in the 23rd Psalm, these tests that we're put through, they put us through, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death. These tests that we're put through, then when we get through them, we turn around and go, well, I made it. I guarantee you, as I say over and over again, you have been through 100% of the worst days of your life and made it, or you wouldn't be here with me. So please, start flipping that over. Start realizing that what you have is enough to start moving forward on whatever you think you need to be doing, like writing that book, like reaching out to that person, like making that phone call, like asking that girl out on a date, like getting help that you need for your depression, for being more social, for asking for that dance, like going to that church, like being a part of this group. You've got what it takes. But the problem is, you're not going to know that until you really reach out and start validating yourself, not from others, what you've got. It's enough. You're enough. So start having that moment. Enjoy those times. You're going to really be quite surprised with yourself. Don't be shy about your own abilities. All right? We're going to be meeting again tomorrow at 12:30, technology and other things providing. Until then, you can catch up with me on Instagram, on Twitter, both at ivorchester3, and my own page, which again is ivorchester.com. I appreciate your time. Please feel free to drop a comment, and we'll speak to you soon. Till then, God bless.